Okay, doke. This is probably going to be the final video in the whole uh, keys, modes, scales, chords, and notes formatting as our main principle to the lessons. And today we're going to focus in more on our well, chords and notes and kind of close things up with that. And to start, we'll again, we're going to be looking at things mostly through the formatting of our key formulas, not our scales, not our modes, our key formulas. Whenever I refer to mode, a lot of times I'm not going to refer to the positioning. I mean, it is good that you know the positioning, though. I mean, Ionian, Dorian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Phrygian, Aeolian, and finally our Locrian. It's good that you know the positioning. That way you know how to break down. Well, you can apply your key formula to those positions. So if we go into a weird key formula, even just flatting the 3 and going into a minor key, and that would be a weird key formula. That'd be something your major key is not going to work anymore. You're going to have to get used to. That's something to where you'd have to realign your modes. You'd have to realign what's going on in there. And then again, if you ever want to throw a chromatic in there, you don't really have to treat it as a mode. Just make sure to account for it in the 7 modes. I mean, if you know that's the chromatic that you're going to be using in the minor key, you don't have to make a mode for it. You just have to account for it showing up in the modes. It's just going to be a part to where you're going to have just a little play into the standard. Well, what I was using there is a D minor key and adding, what was it? I'm using the B flat or A sharp. I'm just adding it in. But I mean, any one of those positionings to just give it a little more funk, Make it fun. Make it interesting. And even whenever you're using chromatics, they're not going to sound good always. So it's nice to, in your writing, apply when applicable. And ask the lead guitarist to do the same thing. I mean, how many times do you see Kirk Hammett go off basis whenever it comes to a solo? Not often. He's got everything down to a science before he ever steps out onto that stage. And this is why we're gonna jump into jazz versus classical before we move on to our chord lesson. But in what you're writing and what comes out in the writing is just good to have. It's good to know that things are applied in the right places. All right, let's do move on to, we're going to start moving towards our chord lesson. Let's do a little jazz versus classical bit because I like to have fun with these chords. But okay, with jazz, you're doing a lot of scale. You're doing a lot of improv, so you need to know what your positionings are. You need to know the different scales. You don't want major to become boring, so you have to know the different positionings and what you can pull from those different positionings, both whenever it comes to your main mode scales, but also the other starting points within the mode. I know the best of them out there can probably verify they have their favorite little things that they do. They have things that are like, yep, I found this and it was wow, I found this, it was wow, I found this. They could probably go through all the modes and all the different positionings and to probably show you a dozen different things that just wow them. Okay? So, that's a lead guitarist right there for you. But again, that's just for major. And I know jazz a lot of times does like to break into minor at times. So I mean, again, they could probably go through all 7 positions and show you things that wow them out of those all 7 positions in the minor key also. So, but like, okay, jazz. It's a lot of scale and key, but it's also jazz is a lot of play and a lot of improv. Classical, I mean, it's usually one guy writing for an orchestra, like a Bach or a Beethoven. And what you get are pretty much things that are written, things that are set, things that are orderly. And I like to write for 2 guitars. Sometimes I even like to write a third part into it. It's what the sound is calling for me to do. Again, and I've got a lot of songs that are still incomplete. I got a lot of set patterns that I do, and I just don't know what else to do. Like, I like, you know, if it becomes even a 2 or 3 minute song and it starts gaining a complete feel, it can be something simple. You know, I'll keep it. But whenever it's something that's like, I've got the lead, but I don't have the rhythm, and the lead's still incomplete, and it's only a minute long, and it feels like it should be attached to something so much greater. It's a song that's incomplete. It should be attached to something greater. I still need to work on things like that and try to get them to where they're complete songs. Once they are, then they'll join this category of just over 40 songs that are complete. Some of them, like we've been going over a lot of the easier ones off of the album I wrote whenever I was young, the actual inspirational album. It was my song dump for all creativity that I was getting whenever I was young. Like, if it was like, wow, a lesson was inspired into me by teachers, I got it, and I recreated it, and I did something with it. Inspirational album it went. And again, if I don't remember it, then it doesn't stay. But these are things that these are the songs that I will play for the rest of my life. I will never forget these. These are the keepers. So far. So far. You know, there's bound to be more to come. It's just, I want the keepers to be like, you know, truly inspirational. I want them to be truly inspirational. Hence the inspirational album being the first album but again, it was everything that was being inspired upon me by, well, I shouldn't just say teachers alone. Like, not only my musical teachers, but also the music that I'm listening to and trying to grasp and play. But the teachers had the biggest part in it. They're the ones who correct you whenever you get things wrong. They're the ones who show you, okay, this, not this. So, and I had one teacher which I paid, of course. Like, I got the musical lessons in. But I had a lot of teachers, like, just hanging around older musicians and making for spending time with those people with guitar in hand. You know, like, they want to teach you, they want to show you things, and if you're eager to learn and you're showing them where you're at and what's the next thing you're trying to grasp, they're usually more than happy to nudge you along in the right direction. Sometimes even throwing more out than you can take. Because when you're learning, you're learning. Whenever you grasp it, you grasp it. But it takes time too. But that's why I like to break it down. What am I doing with my key? My key formula. What are the modes to that key formula? What are the scales that I can make out of the key formula? And I know how you lead guitarists think. What are all the alternative scales that I can play out of that key formula? Yeah, go for it. I mean, I'll be doing the same thing in a song coming up soon. I know how it is. It might be the key of F, but I can still use augmented. I can still break into the key of C. I can still use a D minor key. I still have my options. And then also it depends on, okay, what's going on with the rhythm? If the rhythm's lacking a few notes, I've got a few openings. I can do different things. As long as they sound good, I can do different things. If they don't sound good, people are going to look at me funny. I'm probably not going to want to do that. That's why I like to write instead of jam. If I were to just jam something, I wouldn't get all of it right. I would have to sit down. I would have to prepare something. I'm more of that classical style musician. I just am. And I like to see things from the key perspective. Again, we got the key perspective, which is the formula. We got the mode perspective, and each mode is going to account for both a main positioning key, or I'm sorry, a main positioning scale, but then you have your other start points within that. And then of course your mode is also going to account for the different chords that you can pluck out of that mode. I mean, just off the first positioning, like if we're just in the key of C, E minor chord, A minor chord, D minor chord, C chord, I mean that's just all in that first positioning, and it's no different down here. D minor chord, F chord, A minor chord, what am I doing there? A B chord whenever I should be doing a B minor, but I quit. But you see what I'm saying? We can pull different chords out of each of these modes also. But we do have our main positioning chords also. Like for the key of C, our second positioning, our Dorian positioning would start on D, and it would be a D minor chord. It just that's how it is. Pentatonic scale would apply wonderful. But it's Dorian positioning of the key of C. So that's the first chord, and what I just played was the first scale positioning out of that Dorian mode. And again, you're gonna probably be doing your positionings from the sixth string. That's gonna be easier for you in E tuning, but for these songs, we're not in E tuning. We're gonna be in drop D for the most part. So I do most of my leads off of the 5 string. It's just how I'm used to seeing. I mean, I've been doing, you've seen, like it even started back in the inspirational era. A lot of things got dropped down to D. So yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm just used to guitar drop D tuning. I'm used to lining up with Tool or something like that, or Alice in Chains or something like that. But also the film, also like the violin tuning and trying to get those sounds, and it's like, okay, violin tuning, I need that lower D note. It makes it easier. But again, that's what I'm like. I'm not saying this is a better tuning. I'm not saying that. Both produce, I think actually we use standard tuning probably for a reason. Drop D's the alternate for a reason. But it lines up with the violin. It lines up with a lot of what I'm doing. It's what I'm used to going to. Drop D. It's for me. I like it. Okay, jazz versus classical. Okay, so with something like a jazz routine, we're probably changing from a minor into, or from a major into a minor, into something else, back into something else, which takes us back to the original thing. Like with classical, they do a lot of the same things sometimes, but then you've got songs like the waltz, which is usually always going to be like waltz in A minor. It's always going to be 3/4 timing, and they're always going to list the note that they're starting on, and it's always going to be a minor because it's the waltz. Go to something like a tango, it's always going to be in 4/4, and it's always going to be a straight major key. Tango's written for major, waltz is written for minor, or at least that's always the case that I'm hearing. I've never seen a waltz done. I'm sure there's a waltz done in major. I mean, anything's possible. I'm sure there's a tango done in minor. Anything's possible. But what I've been taught, what I've heard the most of, you're usually going to see the waltz in minor, and it's going to be 3/4 timing. You're usually going to see a tango in major, and it's going to be 4/4 timing. It's just, it's what we're used to. But okay, let's move on from jazz versus classical into our actual chord lesson. Alright, most chords to start with are going to be 3 notes, and you're going to pair the notes throughout the chord, such as this G chord. I've got a B, a D, a G, back to a B, and a G note in there. And I could D, B, D, B, G. I could throw another D note in there if I hammer it in there. So, most chords are going to be 3 notes. Whenever we start playing with the chord formula, that's where we start getting into more notes. So let's say, like a minor 7th, we got 4 notes going on in an E minor 7th. E, B, D, G, D, E. Back to that D. And I mean, the more notes you're throwing in there or altering or whatever, the more the chord is changing. At the extremes of it all are going to be chords like the A ninth and the A major ninth. Well, what are those? Okay, what an A ninth chord really is a 1 note, a root note, a 3 note, a 5 note, a flat 7 note, and then a 9 note, or a 2 note showing up in that higher position. So 5 notes right there. 5 notes. Yeah. That. And a lot of notes in a chord. But it can be done. I mean, don't get me wrong. A 7th. We need to get the suspended second in there. Now, of course, I am sacrificing my 3 note in order to do this. I'm doubling up on the 5 note, I do believe, the F sharp note. With the E, I was doubling up on the E note there. But, 7th position, suspended 2 position, they're both in there. A little hard to get a hold of that 3 position, though. Let's see here. There we go. Of course, I'm sacrificing my high end, but there's a 9th chord for you in a fashion. A very ugly 9th chord, but in a fashion. Not quite in the right order. Again, 5 notes on a guitar is a lot to cover. 5 notes on a piano, and not so difficult. You got the 1, 3, 5 position on the left hand. You got the flat 7, the 2, and whatever else you want to use showing up on the right hand. So, yeah. Now, of course, whenever guitarists play these major 9th chords and the 9th chords, well, let's look at the major 9th first. But it's usually a simplified version, leaving out something like the 3 notes. I mean, what you're gonna see me call something like the A 9th chord more often than not is what it is. A 7th chord with a suspended 2 in it. It's just... I don't like getting into that, it's easy enough to understand. Now, there are reasons these exist, though. I mean, somebody bothered to cover 5 notes at once, probably a pianist, and even went ahead and went to 6 and then even full 7 notes. So, I don't know where this was done. I don't know the song. I don't know the musician, but it's a very creative idea. You would be building up the key through the different chords you're playing, but they're getting thicker each time until the whole key is being played at once. And then where do you go from there? There's gotta be, it probably wouldn't sound the best where you would go from there, but it would probably be one of those, really intense moments in music. It would have very intense sounds, and you could probably find places to jump it to where you're getting the proper reactions out of your audience, because even though it's not harmonious, it still sounds provocative in a good way, in an intense way. And then you could work that back down, and eventually just end up on a simple C key where it all began, or something like that, or whatever key you're in, and just end on the most resolved sounding chord and begin on the most resolved sounding chord, but have all that filled up, and then a friction part, and then a build back. I could just see doing wonderful things with something like that. But I would need to be a pianist and not a guitarist in order to do these things. Or I would need to be a guitarist with an 8-track or a 4-track or an 8-track and just line up a bunch of tracks, see how thick we can build it. Alright. But okay, the A major ninth. This is going to be the one with the 1 note, the 3 note, the 5 note, the major 7th note, and the 9 note, or suspended 2nd note, all together. That order. So let's say like an A minor ninth. That's going to be, or I'm sorry, not an A minor ninth, an A major ninth, or A capital M 9. This is going to be an A, a C sharp, an E, a G sharp, and a B note. And then of course you could do the minor version of these, but you just take that C sharp and flat it to C. But you do have that option. Alright, so we've covered 9th chords now. Well, what's an 11th chord? An 11th chord? Yeah, that's right, 6-note chord. A 1, a 3, a 5, a flat 7, a 9, which is a 2 note, and an 11 note, which is a 4 note. You, of course, have the major 7th versions and the minor versions of these two. Alright, 6 notes. I've got 6 strings. I can't do that. But again, whenever a 9th chord is asked of you, it will always be some kind of simplified version. So you're most likely going to have to account for the root note, the A. Let's say we're key of A. You're going to most likely have to account for the root note and probably that 5 note. With the rest of it, you're looking at making sure that the 7th position, the 2 position, and the 4 position is in there with the 11th chord. Heck, they might actually even sometimes sacrifice the 2 position, just trust the pianist to get it. And then of course you've got a 13th chord, and that's where that's the thing. That fascinates me. That would be every note from a key. Like if you did that in the C, the key of C, you'd be talking about the, let's do the major 7th version. We would be talking about a 1 note C, a 3 note, an E note, a 5 note, a G note, a 7 note, a major 7th note, which would be a B note, a 9 note, which is the 2 note, that's our D note, a 11 note, which is the 4 note, which in the key of C is our F note, and then a 6 note, which is an A note in the key of C. I mean, we're talking about all those notes together, low end covering the 1, 3, and 5, high end covering the other 4 notes, and then just any other. Well, at that point, you're talking about 7 notes. A pianist is probably even fine at that point. Like, okay, we got enough in here. No need to add more. But yeah, just I'd like to hear a professional bounce that around on a piano in some kind of just come up with some fascinating orders, and then also break it back, like build it up, and then I would, oh, that would just be, that makes me want to be a pianist right there. All right, lastly, I want to point out that every major key is going to have every note in it, a version of every note in it, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, except some of them are going to be sharp, some of them are going to be flat, with the one exception. And, well, everything works back towards that F sharp key. On one extreme, we have the C key. It has no sharps and flats. On the other end, we have the F sharp / G flat key, and it's right on that other extreme to where you're you can get there from the sharps or the flats. Also, it's not wrong to continue going sharp if needed, or to continue going flat if needed. I mean, if you get to like an F sharp key because you started on like the E key and you have to continue into the flat keys by going sharp, that's not a problem. Like, that's allowed. That's not considered wrong. It isn't. Same with if you're at the extremes of the flat keys and you have to show what's considered a sharp key by using flats. It's not considered wrong. It's just not. You're allowed to do that. Of course, it's best to key things to where it's easiest understood. Like if you give me something that's in the key of C, but for some reason you have it written out in like the A key, I'm going to take that and I'm going to retranscribe it to not be so crazy with all the sharps and the flats. Just... all right. But okay, the F sharp key. All right, approaching this from F sharp, we have an F sharp, a G sharp, an A sharp, a B, a C sharp, a D sharp, an F, and an F sharp. We have no E note. Approaching this from G flat, we have G flat, A flat, B flat, B, D flat, E flat, F, and F sharp. We have no C note. So, and we have two B notes. So, just the different ways to look at the F sharp, but it's the only one that doesn't run into no matter how you look at it, one of our key notes is getting thrown out, whether it be that E note, I believe it was, or that C note, I believe it was. Yeah, E and C. So it's the one that, it's like the one that got away. I don't know. It's being cheesy. But okay, that's an extreme key like the key of F sharp. Let's take a look at like a key like B. B would be B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and B. All the notes in there. A lot of sharps and flats, but all the notes in there. Sharps on everything other than the B note and the E note. Alright, let's take another look at a note like, or a key like, you know what? Let's just keep going from B. Let's go to B flat. B flat would be B flat, C, D, E flat, F, and G. Let's keep going. A. A would be A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A. Let's go to A flat. A flat would be A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat. But do you see what I'm getting at? Whenever you half step these keys, they only keep a couple similar notes. And whenever you two-step these keys, well, they only gain sharps or flats in a couple of positions, each way you go. Now, sometimes they pick up or don't pick up as many notes, but it just kind of shows you like how half step like doesn't work and how whole step does work. But it also shows you the extremities, why it doesn't work. I mean, why half step doesn't work? Because you're talking about 3 to 4 notes being different. There's only 5 other notes. But why a whole step works in each direction, well, you're talking about only one or two different notes being different. There's 5 different notes. That's 9. That's you could work into that key easy enough. And also there are minor versions. So yeah, there are options there. But it just gives you an idea of how the keys look alongside each other in that position, but you can examine other positions. It's the same way. Half step, you're always going to you're going to gain a whole bunch of sharps or flats. Whole step, you're only going to gain a couple of sharps or flats. Whole step's a much nicer transition. I think that's why it works in moving keys so well. So many moving keys just do whole step transitions, and it's because it's just where the melody it's where it moves to best next. Okay, we're pretty much at the end of our little lessons. Again, you can recognize the treble clef because face will be, okay, treble clef, you know how there's 5 lines and there's 4 spaces in between those lines? From bottom to top, F-A-C-E. Spell out face. That's your treble clef. And then you can work the notes in between, you can work the notes up and down, all you need. Alright, your bass clef. Alright, 5 lines, 4 little spaces in between, but this time I want you to spell out the word from bottom to top, in between those 5 lines, A-C-E-G, Ace G. And well, that's your bass clef. And just to give you an idea of where that F note's located, it's going to be not on that bottom line, but right below it and touching it. So you still have the face showing up there. It's just G gets that, well, first and second, in between the first and second line positioning, the top 2 line positioning. Okay, that note taken care of. Always look at things. You're a guitarist, most likely, if you're watching these. Always think about how things are done on a piano as well. Always. And this is why I want you to know how to sheet music, even if you're going to tab most of the time. That's okay. I don't have a problem with it. Most of the things I do, I memorize anyway. So, I mean, if I'm playing it, I'm not looking at tab or sheet. I'm playing it. But it's good to, like, you're gonna need to know how to write things in sheet music in order to communicate with, let's say, a pianist. Anything that's not on a string instrument is going to need to see the sheet music. You're gonna have to be able to at least know what's going on, or at least be able to take the pianist sheet music home and translate everything to what you're going to be doing on guitar, and vice versa, bring the sheet music that you're writing to the pianist. That way they can translate everything that you're doing on guitar to something that they're doing on piano, because a pianist probably won't take too kindly to it if you bring them guitar tab. They probably will be understanding, but it's just not very, that would not be a very professional thing to do. They'd look at you like, wait, did you forget? I don't have frets. I have, and even with like transferring guitar tab to violin, we usually play in standard tuning. Violin tuning is usually going to be D-A-D-A. So we're in different tuning between us on guitar and them on violin. It's a different, it's a different way of doing things. So we'd have to. It's why we have sheet music. It's why we have sheet music. But again, as long as you can write it and read it, I mean, you can tab it out. That's fine. I mean, in the end, you're probably going to have to memorize it, so you need to move it from sheet to tab for yourself. Just be able to do that. And, well, you can kind of, as long as you can remember where bass is located in the bass and treble clef, you're going to be good with everything. You're going to be able to explain. You'll find the other notes. You'll know where the sharps and flats are. And then, of course, just study tablature books. Study tablature for the way that way that other people write it. And just kind of learn where to place everything. You're still going to have to learn all the rests and everything. You have to learn how to 2, 3, 4, and write to your count. And also go over the song, that way you're keying it from the proper points and you've got the count to where, because you don't want to have a count to where you're like, okay, right here I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the next thing you know you're like, oh, I should have done slower, and it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Find the agreeable count for everything. Find the tempo. Then get your count down, then get everything to the count. Same with whenever you're changing from 3/4 to 4/4 and stuff like that. Your count can't go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. You don't want the beginning to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then all of a sudden we have to slow. No. Get it to where, okay, we can explain everything like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 2. It's just the way to do it. Get it right. Get it planned properly, and the process will go smoothly. Always check out the different things people do with the key wheels. Always examine different key patterns just to keep yourself fresh on going into different keys. It's always good to write a few songs that take you in different directions whenever it comes to altering these key formulas. That way you get familiarity with it. You see it, you do it, you can do it again and again. Even if it's something simple, if you see it and you do it, you know what you're working with. You can see it again, you can do it again. But yeah, definitely. And also different note formulas. Whenever it comes to applying different scales to keys, whenever I call them, I rather just call them, okay, this is the D minor key line, so I'm not going to be saying key or scale too much. I'm going to be pointing out what key it is interacting. But I mean, whenever you see these lead guitars break off of, they're in a major key, but they break off into a scale that just isn't quite major, well, they're doing it because it aligns with the notes that their rhythm guitarist and everybody else is playing. They have an ability to go into that slightly altered little key thing that they're doing. Well, I mean, what they're altering into is a different key formula, which, yes, is a different scale formula. Also, they've got their own little scale thingy that they're doing there. I just prefer to see everything in its simplest position. That way I can explain it to you in the simplest position, how that key is actually being effective. Well, that's what wows me. That's what I want to communicate. Alright, there are other options than natural, there are other options than major, there are other, there's different ways to do things. You could, from adding in things to alting things. Adding in things, I sometimes will call it plugging notes. You're plugging a chromatic into it. But there's also altering the key formula at different times to, give different areas different sounds. There's a lot of things we can do. There's also using our 1, 3, and our 5 position to plug our key formulas for making our different chords and where the notes are going to line up depending on what chords we are playing at the time. That's always a fun way of doing it, but again, it's different. You're going to be playing out of major is the key of most resolve and the key we write in. You're going to play out of major more than anything else. It's more important to get familiar with the major modes and your major scales and your major chords than anything else. But if it's getting to a point to where you need a little bit more of a challenge, let me suggest going through the actual minor key to where you just flat the 3 note, arranging your modes for that minor key, picking a note to start on. Let's say the D note is a good position for minor. You still have your F note, that is just normal, it's an F, but you still have your C sharp also. And yes, you can apply this on top of the C key and it'll sound really good in the high position with the C. It's cool to see I don't like scales and keys with flat 2s very much. I like to try to align things to avoid flat 2s. So whenever you get to see the one note altered, and it's like, yep, there's no other way I can do it than that's a good way of doing that. It strikes my fancy. It kind of proves the way your way of doing this no flat 2 thingy, it doesn't work. But you have to disprove your own rules in order to break them, I guess. At least that's how it is for me. So it's just the things that line up and sound good. Alright, and then again, the least in sharp, and the least you can explain it without having to add sharp and naturalization and flat and all that altering babble is just the best way to write it. It just is. Of course, if you're coming from something else, sometimes you get stuck with a lot of sharps or a lot of flats or a lot of both. But it's the easiest way is the path of least resistance. So, I mean, it's no exception with music. And let's go ahead and close this thing out. I wanted to list off some movie scores for you guys to check out and why they are so awesome. Starting with Peter Pan. Like, Peter Pan may just be like the greatest orchestration and production ever. Just what they did with the sound sources and the cues is just, it was a feat in both music writing, music engineering, not just sound effects, but adding the musical cues into the actual sound and animation and connecting their the animation cues for the sounds. I mean, that was just it was cool. If you see this crocodile come out with its tail doing this thing, and the whole time you're hearing a tick-tock to it, and the music going boom, 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 boom. And it's just cool. Number 2, I would have to give credit to Beetlejuice. What you're witnessing there is this thing's going from 4/4 timing to a 5/4 timing. And I can't argue that it's not a 5/4 timing, that it's 3/4 to 2. No, not with this one. This That thing is just that. And okay, the first one I'm doing 4/4 to 5/4 timing in the end. I went ahead and broke it down, and I did it just in 4/4 timing in the beginning is the 4/4 to 5/4. And I do all that little lead thing. I wanted to play through it. That was fun. One of the parts wasn't quite right though. It's something a little different. It's not quite right. But with the beginning there, I'm playing it correctly. I'm doing the 4/4 to the 5/4 timing. But you want to hear it in 4/4 timing at the end there, I went ahead and just did the part in 4/4 timing. That's what it would be. It would skip that extra. That's what's giving it the extra beat. It's just fascinating. And I do believe that song or that intro, because that's not the only song on that soundtrack that's just phenomenal. He did a number with Beetlejuice. He did a number with Edward Scissorhands too, though. He did a number with Nightmare Before Christmas. Dick Tracy was very impressive. All the superhero movies, very impressive. And the To Die For main titles were just impressive. But I do believe he's finding inspiration from Beetlejuice, because he talks about other musicians from time to time. And Danny Elfman, he's become a big name composer. And he doesn't reveal his tricks so much, but he talks. And yeah, with this one, it's cool because it's working sort of an A minor key with a C key, but it's not so extreme. It's more like a C augmented key mixed with an A minor key. It is kind of going back and forth. And I think it even, yeah, I don't know if it goes back to straight C, but I think it even goes straight back to straight C at times. But it's being inspired by Ghoulies, and also what Elliot Goldenthal did with Pet Sematary. And let's just call that number 3, Pet Sematary. That was just as impressive. That was very, very, very. I mean, that the whole thing is like just a concerto of an accompaniment to a movie. And that was very, very well done. But then we could take a look at something like Lawrence of Arabia by Maurice Jarre, with the F key that kind of transcends into this D flat 6 type of thing in its melody. It makes for a really nice sound. It's really nice sound. And simple, too. Sometimes simplicity goes a long way. Now, of course, is that the whole score? No, it's a theme from a very much bigger score. But that theme goes a long way. Let's take a look at a movie like Around the World in 80 Days and that score. The original, of course, not nothing new. The original. But the use of familiar themes and fitting the themes in a fun way to the appropriate locations. That was just, it was, whenever it comes to putting sound to actual motion picture, that was a statement piece, in my opinion. You just don't get better than that. Or let's look at a movie like Dark City with its offsetting keys, mingling like three main themes that mingle together to portray whatever set of, and of course it's not just these three main themes, there's a lot of theatrics built off of them, but it's like three main themes define it. I don't know what key it goes from, but that's it. I don't know how to do that part, but but that one, something like that. And the other one was something like that, and just how all this fit together. It's a like three main themes, but what you do off of it, it's what counts, and where these things are being used and what it's appropriate for. And I like things that theme more than things that run in the background. A theme's going to stand out to a viewer. And it's going to help define your movie, like Terminator. Like we all know, like boom, 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 boom. I mean, we all know the dun dun dun, dun dun dun. Like we expect that. Like it's the theme for Terminator. Like we know what's coming. Robots are coming. So, and another one. What Graham Revell did with the Riddick movies was impressive whenever it comes to theme, but if you take the sound effects away, it's not as impressive. It's lacking, but it shows the way that the sound effects and that guy worked. Like the tech sounded like, that's another one. Like it's not just the score; it's in the production value. It's in the way that the team is working together. Versus something like John Williams and his moving keys. And I mean anything John Williams does, but I mean E.T. and Jurassic Park stand out whenever it comes to the moving keys. Like those were beautiful. The way that he uses them in that movie stands out over all others. But I mean that's like a go-to of his. So I mean any movie, any John Williams movie, it'll be done. It'll be done at some point. Also, both Bernard Herrmann and Jerry Goldsmith, they are two of the only people I've ever seen other than Pink Floyd use the 1/1/2 stepper. I mean, it's just not in a whole lot of music. So, props to somebody doing it. But again, you don't hear the diminished in a whole lot of music, but Castlevania does it. So, you know, it's cool whenever there's musicians that are willing to go to extremes. It just is. It gives us. It's nice to have a source for things that sound like that. I know what I know what that's dependable for, and they never let you down. I mean, there's they'll never stop making good ones. I'm sure as long as they keep running that diminished minor theme, well, not just diminished minor, but I mean it's usually like major keys but minor positions. Um, like the minor's the real theme, I do believe, and then it works its way into, but it's just they'll never, you can tell they'll never run out of things to do. I mean, there's always something more they can pull from it, and then like you can tell they're always taking inspiration from what's been done, so it's always moving in like a forward direction. I do have a preference on the first one, but I mean, they've never let me down. And then like just the Bond movies is another good one, but we're gonna get into some examples of what all you can do with adding in alts like that. And that's what they're doing. They're adding in those alts. We're getting chromatic positionings whenever we get that swing feel. Anything else on here that stands out? Alright, we're going to wrap this up here. I don't know, give you an idea of just some of the some things to, you know, just like you want to find inspiration. Here's some of the musicians I really like. A lot of them do video games and a lot of them do movies. Alright, but we will get back to doing, well, we're going to start with, I do believe, the red herring, and we will move on to Pride Plus and all of that from there. Again, thank you as always. Keep on rocking.